been an eventful week in South African politics, with many cities electing new mayors and executive committees. Joining me to discuss is Marius Roodt of the Institute of Race Relations. Marius, you and I are speaking at 2 o'clock on Tuesday, so some of the results from places like Tshwane are still coming in. But what do you make of the developments this week?
Well, it seems that we're going to have a new era in Ekurhuleni on the Gauteng's East Rand. For the first time, a DA mayor has been elected in Ekurhuleni, and at the same time, a DA mayor was elected in Johannesburg, Mpho Palatse. It seems to have this seems to have surprised the DA to some degree. It seems that the various opposition parties, including the EFF, decided to vote for the DA's candidate, rather than voting for the ANC candidate or abstaining, and it seems to have blindsided the ANC too. So the DA seems to be in a position it didn't want to be in, which was governing in unstable coalitions, or not even really coalitions, unstable groups of unstable minority government. The DA, it's very far from having a majority in either Ekurhuleni or Johannesburg, and it's going to have to rely on smaller parties, including the EFF, to get its to pass its agenda, pass its budgets, and all that kind of thing. So I think there's a couple of things that have probably happened here. There's some speculation that the DA wasn't actually all that keen on governing in Gauteng. Places like Johannesburg and Ekurhuleni are actually pretty difficult to govern. And we saw what happened to the ANC and the DA in Joburg and Tshwane following the 2016 elections, where the DA and ANC both governed Tshwane and Johannesburg at various times since 2016, and both those parties lost significant support in both those cities, around about 10 percentage points for the ANC, more or less the same for the DA. So these places are difficult to govern, and in a way, almost it's sometimes easier to be in opposition. So there has been speculation that the DA wasn't all that keen on governing these places, and that's why they weren't too keen on building stable coalitions. As I say, there has been speculation that the smaller parties that were part of the coalition talks over the weekend, people like Action SA, the Freedom Front Plus, have actually decided that they would support the DA anyway and get their candidates into governance in the metros. And we've seen that happen in Ekurhuleni and Joburg. Maybe what has been the surprise is that the EFF has supported the DA's candidates, and who knows why they decided to do it. There could be they decided to do it just to keep the ANC out. They don't want to be seen as supporting an ANC candidate. It could also be that they will be using the metros as a kind of a bauble for the ANC. Maybe a couple of months down the road, they might say to the ANC, look, we will give you back the metros if you support us on what we want with our plans around expropriation without compensation. So, but I think what you are going to see is going to be we're not going to see much stability in the Gauteng metros. I don't think it's going to be a replay of what we saw in Johannesburg and Tshwane since 2016. As I say, to pass budgets, there's going to have to be some unwieldy coalitions brought together to allow the DA to get the required what it needs, which is 50% plus one of all councillors to pass budgets. So basically at the moment, the DA is going to be governing in Joburg, and Ekurhuleni is going to be governing on a vote-to-vote basis.
Enjoying this analysis? Click here to sign up for our 30-day free trial for more content from the CIA.
Right, Marius. Well, in our initial analysis of the elections, we drew this analogy of the buffalo and the wild dogs, the buffalo being the ANC, which is kind of on its way out, weakened and diminished. And the wild dogs is this pack of unruly opposition parties, sometimes yapping at each other and making life difficult for the buffalo. But the last week or so have really shown that some of those dogs might have rabies and going a little crazy, attacking one another. But do you think that this pack of opposition parties could somehow cohere around a sort of a common vision or strategy, or do you think it's just going to be very chaotic and a bit disorderly?
Look, I think it's going to be, by its nature, it's going to be chaotic. But it seems that the various opposition parties have now come together, including the FF, to bring down the ANC. So I think if they cohere around a common goal, which is obviously getting rid of the ANC in these various municipalities, it can work. But I mean, as the initial analysis said, the wild dog pack is going to be as how dogs act. They're going to nip at each other. They're going to have fights, but they're going to have a common goal, which will be bring down the buffalo. I know the EFF was also spoken about as the calf of this big buffalo, but perhaps a better analogy would be the EFF is maybe a hyena, where it's not going to be in the wild dog pack, but it'll be also, the working to, bring down a buffalo or whatever the case is, and maybe even trying to steal the prey of the wild dog, which they've brought down, and act as a scavenger. Maybe that's so. Maybe the EFF is more of a hyena than a buffalo calf. But I think it's going to be. I think we are seeing the formation of some kind of broad opposition coalition, but we've already seen that it's barely 3 weeks after the election, and there's already fighting around it. But this was always going to be inevitable. I think with so many parties involved, we're going to see this kind of infighting and chaos. I could see that there might be some form of cooperation coming up to 2024 to bring down the ANC, but that remains to be seen. But if we do want to see the end of ANC governments anytime soon, I think it is very important that the various wild dogs and perhaps even the hyena/buffalo calf work together to bring down the ANC. But there's also been warnings that the DA and so on shouldn't work with the EFF, and I think I do agree with that. And we've seen what happened before with the DA working with the EFF. Just one part, as an aside with the EFF, after the 2016 election, as far as I know, I didn't take any executive positions in any municipalities anywhere in South Africa. But in this election, it seems to, or post this election, it seems to be having a different strategy. It's apparently gained the mayoralty in Metsimaholo, which is Sasolburg, thanks to the support of the ANC. It's got the speaker position, Mamusa, in Northwest, in Umhlatuzi, which is Richards Bay down in KwaZulu-Natal. I believe it's gained the deputy mayor position. So it looks like the EFF itself might be trying to get into actually governing instead of being in these kind of conflicts and supply agreements, which it was most of the time after 2016. So I think we're definitely seeing some different dynamics post 2016. But it's not going to be much more stable compared to 2016. And I think the Chinese curse may live in interesting times, definitely going to count for South Africans.
Yeah, very interesting indeed. And we might see that hyena feeding off of the entrails of the ailing buffalo. But what about the ANC itself? They seemed completely sidelined during this process, somewhat irrelevant. And I think that this shows many ways that the hegemony of the ANC has really diminished. Their aura of invincibility, I think, is well and truly gone. What do you think?
I agree with that completely. Under the Mbeki presidency, it seemed that the ANC was this invincible juggernaut. If you told somebody, 15 years from now, the ANC, when Mbeki was at the height of his powers, the ANC is going to be out of, basically every metro in the country, they wouldn't have believed you. But I think it shows that South Africa is maturing as a democracy. People are seeing that there are other options other than the ANC. But at the same time, people aren't necessarily turning to the DA or the EFF. I think a very important fact to note is that in 2016, only 10% of voters didn't vote for one of the ANC, the DA, or the EFF. In this election, that's more than doubled. About 21% of votes were cast for a party that wasn't one of the big three. So I think we're definitely seeing a fracturing of our politics. But at the same time, the main thing is that the ANC is the center of gravity of South African politics seems to be moving away from the ANC. It's now playing a supporting role in Gauteng instead of being, the main role. And it's probably going to have to get used to being in opposition in a lot more places than it has been before. But I think the ANC juggernaut has definitely taken a direct hit in the listing. But to mix my metaphors, when you've got nothing to lose, that is when somebody is maybe at their most dangerous. So I think we need to watch the ANC. It could be quite possible that a lot of radical policies that have always been kind of in the ANC subconscious but kept on the back burner could be coming to the fore, and we could see some policies that are very bad for growth and the South African economy be supported by the ANC, whether it's the EFF's type of EWC policy that they want, maybe things like prescribed assets, or maybe look at nationalization of the Reserve Bank. Those are definitely some things we have to watch. And I think it could be that there is a possibility that the ANC could take a more populist path, as it worries seeing how its support is hemorrhaging quite quickly at the moment.
Marius Roodt, thank you very much for joining me on the CRA channel. Let's hand over to you, our viewers. What do you make of the new governments in South Africa's major cities? Do you think that they're going to be workable, and how long will they last? Leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more insights from the CRA team. My name is David Ansara. Until next time, take care.